Most of us spend our lives running from hardship. We see it as a curse, something to be avoided at all costs. But what if the secret to an unbreakable mind wasn't to flee from pain, but to embrace it as the very tool that forges your strength? What if your moments of greatest suffering were actually invitations to become more powerful? This was the core belief of Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most challenging and misunderstood thinkers. His own life was a crucible of suffering, marked by profound loneliness, chronic illness, and a mind that eventually shattered. Yet, from that fire, he forged a philosophy not of despair, but of radical strength. He didn't offer easy answers or comforting lies. He gave us a brutal, honest, and ultimately empowering toolkit for life. In this video, we're breaking down 6 of his most potent life lessons. These aren't just abstract theories, they are practical principles for navigating the chaos of the modern world. They will teach you how to transform pain into power, command respect, and build a life of profound meaning. And in the process, they might just solve 99% of your problems by changing not what happens to you, but how you choose to meet it. Lesson 1. Use suffering as the furnace of your strength. The first problem Nietzsche tackles is our relationship with pain. We see hardship as a sign of failure, a detour from the happy life we think we're owed. When a crisis hits, a job loss, a tough breakup, a personal failure, our first instinct is to ask, why me? We feel cursed, broken, and weak. Nietzsche flips this entire idea on its head. His famous declaration, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," is a powerful philosophical mindset. He argued that comfort creates weakness, while struggle is the necessary condition for growth. Now, this isn't to ignore the reality of trauma. Modern psychology shows that severe suffering can also lead to long-term harm like PTSD. Nietzsche wasn't suggesting we seek out pain, but that the act of surviving it builds an emotional endurance we can't develop any other way. The person who confronts loss or failure and keeps moving forward discovers a strength they never knew they had. This ties into his famous, and often misinterpreted, concept of the will to power. While some read this as a desire to dominate others, many scholars see it primarily as the innate drive within us to overcome resistance, to expand our own abilities, and to grow stronger. From this perspective, every obstacle is an opportunity to exercise this will. The takeaway is this: reframe your suffering. When you're faced with a crisis, stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this forcing me to develop?" Treat pain as fuel for your growth, not a stop sign. You are the artist of your own life, and challenges are just the raw material. The question is, what will you build with them? Lesson 2. Find the courage to leave what diminishes you. So many of our problems come from one agonizing source. We stay trapped in situations that make us feel small. We stay in toxic relationships, in soul-crushing jobs, in environments that stifle our growth. We do it out of fear, obligation, or the misguided hope that we can fix things. We tell ourselves it's noble to endure. Nietzsche would have seen this as a total betrayal of yourself. He warned against the herd mentality, our tendency to conform to group expectations even when it means sacrificing our own well-being. He argued that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Staying in a situation that shrinks your potential is the ultimate submission to this pressure. You're letting someone else's dysfunction dictate the terms of your existence. Nietzsche warned against what he called dangerous helpfulness, that impulse to save others at the expense of your own soul. Often, what we call loyalty is just a fear of being alone. The lesson here is a call for brutal honesty and real courage. Ask yourself a simple question: does this relationship, this job, this environment help me become the best version of myself, or does it force me to shrink? If the answer is shrink, you have a duty to yourself to leave. This isn't selfish, it's the ultimate act of self-respect. And the real power move isn't a dramatic confrontation. It's to quietly outgrow them. Become so invested in your own growth, new habits, new goals, new energy, that you simply operate on a different frequency. Toxic people don't leave when you argue, they fall away when you're no longer on their level. This captures the spirit of one of his most powerful attributed ideas, that no price is too high for the privilege of owning yourself. Lesson 3. Command respect through boundaries, not approval. A huge number of our daily anxieties come from a deep-seated need to be liked. We crave approval, and in our quest for it, we let our own boundaries get erased. We say yes when we want to say no. We tolerate disrespect, hoping our kindness will finally win someone over. We become endlessly available, only to find ourselves taken for granted and exhausted. Nietzsche offers a radical shift in perspective here, distinguishing between a master morality and a slave morality. This isn't about class, but about your mindset. Slave morality is reactive. It defines good and bad based on the approval or disapproval of others, and its values are often born from weakness and resentment. Master morality, in contrast, acts from a sense of its own power. The noble type creates their own values. They don't need outside approval because their validation comes from within. The lesson? Stop seeking approval and start commanding respect. Respect isn't something people give you because you're nice. It's a reflection of the value you place on yourself. This starts with setting and enforcing boundaries. A boundary isn't a wall, it's a clear line that says, this is me, and this is how I expect to be treated. When someone consistently disrespects that line, whether with condescension, dishonesty, or by taking your kindness for weakness, you have to enforce it. Tolerating it just teaches them that your respect is cheap. The most powerful response is often not a loud argument, but quiet, resolute distance. Define your non-negotiables. Understand that no is a complete sentence. Your dignity is not up for negotiation, and your boundaries are the price of admission to your life. Lesson 4. Use solitude as a catalyst for transformation. We live in a world that is terrified of silence. We fill every spare moment with noise, distractions, and social media. For many, the thought of being alone is a source of pure anxiety. We're afraid we'll be consumed by our own thoughts or loneliness. This leads to shallow relationships and a shocking lack of self-awareness. Nietzsche saw solitude not as a punishment, but as an essential condition for freedom and self-creation. He believed the crowd, with its constant demands for conformity, suffocates true originality. It was in solitude, Nietzsche believed, that the free spirit could truly emerge. For him, solitude wasn't about being lonely, it was about recovery, a return to yourself. It is in the quiet of this self-imposed desert that you can finally hear your own voice, away from the noise of the herd. The practical step is to intentionally schedule periods of true solitude. No phone, no social media, no external input. Just you and your thoughts. It might feel uncomfortable at first, that's normal. But it's in this space that you can begin the real work. Use this time to ask the hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I actually believe, separate from the opinions of my friends or family? What parts of my life are just a performance for someone else? This practice builds an internal anchor. You can't become who you are if you're constantly surrounded by the voices of who everyone else thinks you should be. Real transformation demands the courage to be alone with yourself. Lesson 5. Stop asking for permission to be yourself. So many of our choices are governed by an invisible jury, our friends, our family, society at large. We filter our dreams and desires through the lens of, but what will they think? This constant search for external validation leads to a life lived on someone else's terms. We become actors playing a role, not the authors of our own story. Nietzsche's philosophy is a declaration of independence from this tyranny of approval. This reflects the spirit of one of his most cutting observations, often paraphrased as, "The demand to be loved is the greatest of all arrogant presumptions." He saw the need for constant validation as a weakness, the mark of someone who needs the herd for safety. True freedom belongs to the free spirit who creates their own values and lives by them. This leads to one of his most powerful concepts, amor fati, or a love of fate. It's the mindset of not just accepting everything that happens in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, but loving it as a necessary part of your unique story. When you truly love your fate, you no longer need the approval of others, because every part of your journey, including the parts they judge, made you who you are. The practical action is to start making decisions based on your own internal compass. Today, make one choice, no matter how small, without considering what anyone else might think. If you feel the urge to explain or justify it, resist. Your choices don't require a defense. This isn't about being reckless, it's about shifting your center of gravity from the outside world back to your own soul. You are the architect of your own values. Stop asking for permission to build. Lesson 6. Become who you are. This brings us to the final, and most important, lesson that wraps up his entire philosophy: become who you are. At first, it sounds like a riddle. How can you become something you already are? But Nietzsche didn't mean you should find some fixed, pre-existing self. He meant you must create yourself. Most of us live lives of imitation. We follow scripts laid out for us by society, the career we should want, the relationship we should have, the personality we should display. We are an assembly of inherited ideas and fears. For Nietzsche, your true self isn't that collection of hand-me-downs. Your true self is the ideal version of you that you have the potential to become. Becoming who you are is the lifelong process of sculpting yourself into that higher version. You are both the marble and the sculptor. It requires you to identify the parts of you that feel authentic and chisel away the parts that don't. It means taking the raw material of your life, your passions, your strengths, and yes, your suffering, and actively shaping it into a work of art. The process is one of constant, courageous experimentation. Identify one script you're following that feels inauthentic. It might be a belief you hold or a goal you're chasing for someone else. Now, break from it. Do something that aligns not with the script, but with your own authentic inclination. This isn't about one grand gesture. It's about a series of small, brave choices you make every single day. It's the journey of shedding the person you were told to be, so you can finally create the person you were meant to become. These 6 lessons from Nietzsche are not a map to an easy life. They are a call to a difficult one, but one that is filled with power, meaning, and authenticity. They teach us to see suffering not as a curse, but as a forge. To walk away from what diminishes us. To command respect with unshakable boundaries. To find our voice in solitude. To love our own fate. And finally, to take on the greatest challenge of all, the creation of ourselves. These ideas are demanding because they place all the responsibility for your life squarely on your shoulders. There's no one else to blame and no one coming to save you. But in that very responsibility lies the ultimate freedom, the freedom to build a life that is truly, unapologetically your own. If this resonated with you, pick one of these lessons and apply it today. Set that boundary. Spend 10 minutes in silence. Make one decision that is 100% yours. Let us know in the comments which lesson you're going to put into practice. And if you want more deep dives into philosophy that can change your life, be sure to like and subscribe.